Nick, 2025, the basics of the business. Now, this is a very important lesson to be learned in doing anything in life. If you want to do it well, then you had better learn what you need to do first. It's a kind of a very profound statement. The doing well part comes with time, but if you don't know how to do it, then you don't get to get into that doing well. In my 35 years with Nikan, I'm proud to say I did it well. And I've written about this a gazillion times, and we're going to do it one more time because I think it's important. It's now 2025, and we have a whole new chapter in Nikan. And once again, I find myself very interested in the success of Nikan and the success of distributors. It's kind of like I had so much fun doing this business in my career. I just love to do it. And when I see other people trying to do it but not getting what they want, that gets to me, and I want to try and resolve that. And yet I know that it's only you that can resolve it. Now, the most basic element of our business is you. And without you, there is no business. Nikan can have the best products in the world. It can have the best income potential. It can have the best lifestyle program. But if there's no you involved, then simply things are writing on a piece of paper and nothing will actually happen. So this is really important. Therefore, you make everything happen. You create all the results. You have the experience. You benefit from all that you do, and you don't benefit from all that you don't do is the simple thing. Now that you know the secret, you can unleash the power, and the power is knowledge. And really what it boils down to. In an article I wrote in 1998 called The 10 Things You Need to Know, I was at an event in Kansas, and I was the guest speaker, and the head person in Kansas City at the meeting. I asked him, I said, "Well, what do you want me to talk about?" And he said, "Well, why don't you talk about the 10 things you did to become successful?" And I'd never written this before. I'd never had this, and I wrote this down. I went up to my room and I wrote down 10 things that, were the backbone of the success, and I laid the foundation, and then created key activities that needed to be done by you to have a chance at success. And this later became a book that I wrote called Vested Interest, Making Network Marketing Work for You, which still holds true today. And the 10 things that were talked about were: first, treat it like a business; two, know what you want; understand how it works; show me the money; have a written plan; have your story and presentation dialed in to what's going on in society; know the tools of your trade; be organized with your daily activities; understand what leadership truly is; and practice, 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 practice. Now, all results come about by actions being done somewhere and somehow, and also from actions not being done and not done somehow or somewhere. You get that idea. So something can happen by not doing something, and something can happen by doing something. So both can happen from either doing or not doing, and that's the key. And the most common mistake that those who didn't have success or don't reach their goal was attributed to not understanding what to do, and therefore not doing. Amazingly simple, yet it escapes even the best of us. So you can think you know what to do, and you can be close to what needs to be done, but if you don't really know what to do, then it doesn't happen. So the key to success is knowing what to do and doing it. And so what does this mean in simple terms? Let's take a look and find out the big picture. So Niken is the manufacturer and supplier of a line of wellness products. We know that. Niken makes these products available to you, a distributor, and offers you the opportunity to make an income if you sell and or distribute through a network of other yous who sell the product. I mean, that's the simplicity of what we are. I mean, that's really what it boils down for. Therefore, the income you make is created when you sell products or when your teams sell products. And everything regarding this activity and benefits is number based. I mean, it's numbers of products, it's numbers of sales, it's income, it's CV, it's PV, it's PGPV, it's OV. You got overrides, you got rebates, you got incentives. It's all numbers. Numbers is a language, and it is very important. So there's another aspect to this that also contributes to the income you make, and that is the understanding and the strategies involving in building your business. So if we take a look at that, as a coach and a mentor and having done this well, I found and observed that all the top income earners follow the same basic strategies in building their business. However, the style by which they did this was unique to their personality, their circumstances, who they were, their background, their education, how they were brought up, how they were treated, all of that kind of good stuff. So I often talked about there's a difference between style and technique and and actually performing the strategic functions of building the business. I'll just a quick sidetrack on this. When I started in the leaders above me told me to put together a list of 200 people, and that's how you start your business. Well, I didn't have a list of 200 people. I only had 15, but I understood the concept of what they were saying. And the concept of what they're saying is you've always got to have people to talk to because we're a people business. So you talk to number one, and you've either dealt with him, he becomes a customer, he goes sideways, he takes off, he goes to France, he doesn't get involved, whatever the case may be. So to make the business work, you got to talk to the next person. And so the skill or the ability is in how you prepare to then talk to the next person. So if you had a list of 200, fine. I had 15 and then I knew I had to get more. So I figured out ways to get the next people that I talked to, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of untruths that float around our industry that are basically false data. You don't need 200 people to start. You don't need 200 people to build your business. But you must understand that we are a people business and your business is made up of people. So you need somebody to talk to. And then once you got that somebody, once that's done with, you need to go on to the next one. Today, I'm extremely impressed and most excited what we're creating. So let's put some understanding into this and why you should want to do it as well. In chapter 4 of Vested Interest, Show Me the Money, I explained that one of the successful actions was understanding the compensation plan for the specific reason of knowing how to build the business and where you need to work and how the structure of networking works so that you can make the income that you want. Now, again, I was fortunate enough to be taught by one of the top network marketers in the world who'd had great success with Amway, and that's probably one of the hardest businesses to build because of their demands. And you think ours is tough, well, Amway's is 10 times tougher. And he made it to the top of Amway, and he learned a lot. And it was basically his understanding of structure that allowed me to learn and understand where to work and why it worked. And we're going to get into that as we progress down here. We won't do too much on this today. But the idea is in phase one, you sponsor and build your team, you get some customers, and you learn everything you need to know so that you can move into phase two. And then phase two is helping your organization build their business. So I don't have the schematic on this, but if you look on the right-hand side, we have some pictures. And we have Vivian, and we have Paula, and we have Mike, and then we have Miranda. That's the lineup I've got. So if I were to sponsor Vivian and she comes into the business, my focus is helping her to build her team. Now, I really want you to understand this in a conceptual understanding because that's where the money, that's how you earn your living is when other people do things. So if somebody's not doing something, then you're not getting paid. If they're doing something, you're getting paid. And you have to look at it in that way because this is what we are. We're a business. We sell product. If we don't sell product, we're not going to just keep laying out money if we're not getting anything back. And we've proven that over the decades that that's the way it works. So in the phase one, your job is to figure it all out, get help, have a good mentor, and then in job the second part is if I got Vivian, I would, in the sense of business, marry Vivian and help her build to gold and platinum. Because if I or and diamond, because if I could get her and her organization up to 100,000 in volume a month and more, then I'm going to be making 6% of that. So that's the viewpoint. So that was detailed to me, and I looked at that and I said, "Oh my God, okay." So it's not it's what I do in a sense, but it's more importantly what the people underneath me do. And I'd like you all, if I was building this business, and this is what I did do, is the first person that I got involved with the business, and we built down 6 generations below me, and we created 4 silvers, and I created a team that were all climbing the walls to build this business and allowed me to move on to the next person. And we're going to get into this over time, but this is the kind of the idea of where we're going with this. So in phase one, you sponsor and build your team, you get your customers, you learn everything you need to know so that you can move into phase two, helping others build their business and do the same. Now, you only get paid when others buy or sell products. This is the key point that needs to be completely recognized. So that if you built a larger size organization with hundreds of distributors creating volume, you're going to get paid plain and simple. However, the opposite is also true. So again, if we look at it in the sense, it's kind of like building a house and having a set of plans and seeing where you place the electrical outlets and why you need to lay the foundation of the electrical outlets based on the end result of use. So if you want to maximize your income, then getting 6% leadership bonus on the sixth level is important. And knowing the structure and what is required to build that, so to get paid to the sixth level, is important to know and understand, and not necessarily just for you, but for the potential for somebody else. And we're going to get into that in how we attract attention and what we can use to attract attention. So just think if in the house plans you forgot to put in electrical outlets in the kitchen, it'd be kind of interesting, right? You'd have to run extension cords from another room. I mean, you'd have to jimmy rig it to get it going. So the same thing applies here. So if you don't bring in a distributor and you don't help them and you don't get what you need and want, then you're going to struggle economically. And the number one failure for most businesses, they spend more than they make. And so we want to try and prevent that from happening. I'll help you prevent that from happening for sure. Now, in phase one, you recruit, but not for the mere sake of recruiting, but to build your team that will, in time, create your diamond distributorship. And that's the key here. So now it's time to take it the business side and how it works best and what activities you need to learn and understand to make this work. Now, it starts with the fundamental concept of communication, followed by agreement, followed by learning, followed by doing. So, in simple terms, our whole business is based on communicating. And again, this is important to understand because if you're not communicating, then there's something you got to work on. If Because that's how it works. It doesn't work in any other way. Now, you can communicate through books, you can communicate through videos, you can communicate, but the best way to communicate is with you, one-on-one, person to person, to have that real life connection because we're a relationship business. And in working with some of the people in my organization over the years, that was the fun part of making it work was the actual relationship we had together and making it work. Now, the other thing is we have the idea of creating interest. So we want to have so they want to have what we have. So there's this it's either business interest, product interest, or social interest. And I'm going to cut to the chase on this is that the distributor, the business interest is the only group that really develops the business. It's the only group that really finds customers. It's the only group that really creates revenue and income. And if there were no distributors, then there would be nothing. So I really want you to understand that aspect in how you look at this, because again, success is really simple here. This is the easiest business to make a lot of money at. You just have to know what to do, where to work, and why you're doing it. The key from your perspective in is to communicate in a way that the person you're speaking with can see and understand the basics of what you're talking about so they can think with the information to deal with the situation that they have. Now, learned this a long time ago, and it came about that if you have a problem, now let's say the problem is let's pick money because it's an easy one to talk about. We don't have enough money to do whatever you want to do. So you're reminded about this all throughout your entire day and life and living that there's something you can't do. So you try and wrestle with, well, well, how can I solve this issue? And you try and bury it, you try and get rid of it, you try to hide from it, you whatever the case may be if you haven't figured out how to solve it, but it still sits there. So somebody comes along and they ask this question, well, would you be interested in making an extra $5,000 a month? What do you think is going to pop up in their mind? That problem. And if they really want to solve that problem, then that's kind of like, the big worm on the hook when you go fishing. The fish flies by and he sees this big fat worm and he says, "Oh my God, I want that big fat worm." So what we're going to learn or what we're going to apply is being effective in how we communicate so that the person at the other, you're not selling here at all. We're going to get away from that idea. We don't want to sell a thing here. We want to educate and we want to find the problems and present the idea of a solution so that it's easy. It's kind of like you got to go to a formal event and you need a formal gown or a tuxedo or whatever the case may be, a suit, and you go to the store and you walk around and the gal or the guy that's servicing at the store says, "Can I help you?" And you say, "No, I'm just looking." You see, now the smart guy would say, you got a big event to go to and you need to find something? Yeah. You see, he hits the nail right on the head. So he finds the problem as quickly as possible and they say, "Okay, well, let me show you some solutions for your problem, blah, blah, blah." And they find the right thing and you walk out of the store and away you go. Watch the Pretty Woman. When she goes to buy her clothes and she gets snubbed at a store and then she spends an absolute fortune. So it's that kind of a thing. So in simple terms, our whole business is based on communicating and what we have others and what we have to others with the idea of creating interest so that they want what we have. And this could be the business of interest, it could be product interest, social interest. So your job in the beginning, is to find out which one. Now, you can cut to the chase here. You can cut through all of the smoke and the mirrors and the gimmicks and whatever, and go direct to the best source that you possibly can, because this is where the majority of people sit. 94% of the working population works because they need to make money. So there's no guesswork. So you all you need to do is ask the right questions, get into the conversation first, then ask the right question. And it's purely a matter of sorting in a sense of how we do it. So I'll give you an example of this. So I went to work in the 90s, or was the 80s, maybe it was the 80s in the oil and gas industry. And it was telemarketing, and I was given a stack of leads, just names and phone numbers, and a script to say to this group of people that I was calling. Um, and the first idea was to see if they were interested to be investors. So you had to qualify them. We'll do a class specifically on qualifying, but you'd ask the question, are you an investor? Do you invest? And I represent this federal government program where you can win the oil and gas rights on government land, and et cetera, et cetera. And if they qualified, if you liked the program, you could spend $10,000 to $50,000. They'd agree to that. Then I'd send them a package. So what I learned in that process was to qualify who I was talking to before I wasted any time. Because you can waste an inordinate amount of time with the wrong people. And again, there's plenty of time for you to do that down the road. You don't need to do that at the beginning. You can do that after. Once you get your organization going, once you build your team, once it's kicking out 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600,000 a month, whatever the case may be, then you can go down and give away your money and help poor people and do whatever you want. I became a very generous philanthropist in with the money that I made and generated in this business and others. So it's very worthwhile. So that was the end product. But in the beginning, I needed the help to get there. So this is the key thing, qualifying. We'll talk about this more. And the key from your perspective is to communicate in a way that the person you're speaking to can see and understand the basics of what you're talking about so that they can think with the information and deal with the situation they have. Because when you're talking to somebody, whether it's directly or through any kind of communication, and if they're any way somewhat interested, they're going to try and find the answers that they want to look for. They're going to Google search. They're going to talk to their friends. They're going to talk to their associates. So you want to make sure that what you've got to say is spot on, riveting, and piques their interest, um, and so that they can see that possibly they could solve their problem by being involved. And the way you do that, and this is really simple. This is so simple it's hurts. I don't know if it's coming up now. So what we know is that the more the person can use what you say, the better, and we'll deal and now deal with this. So in looking over the organizations, the most successful and understanding the nature of the people involved, we know it started when potential interested public became key partners because they realized they could resolve their problems or issues using the Niken products and the opportunity. So that was the common denominator. So the common denominator was when I went to the person that I was talking to, I would show him, I would say what I was doing, and it was that agreement that occurred because they saw what they saw, they thought they could solve their problem. It starts with two people agreeing to build the business. And this is the beginning of how this works. Then word of mouth takes over. I mean, that's really what it is. When agreement is formed, then collaboration, ideas, willingness, accountability take hold. If you don't have agreement, then they don't take hold. So it's kind of like it's like a relationship. It's the same thing. It's like friendship. What's the basis of the friendship or the relationship? It's agreement. And once you have the agreement, then everything else works. It's like a winning team with everybody on the same page. There's an awful lot of agreement with the team will win, and it's talked about all the time. So you're more apt to push and work harder when you have agreement with others. Very interesting thing. So the more I had people in agreement with what we were doing together, the bigger it got because we both got excited. And when you're up and you're excited and you're energetic and you're enthusiastic, you're far more competent and far more able and far more communicative and far more attractive than when you're down in the dumps doing nothing. And this is basically how it works. So however, to create agreement, you need to create an understanding of how the idea you are presenting will help them solve their issue or give them a benefit. Interest, benefits, action. That's the same way in human relationship. You know, you see somebody else and you have interest in that somebody else. You understand the potential benefits, and then you get into action to get those benefits. It's plain and simple. So you learned that the first thing that you want to do is figure out what you want from doing the business. So that was, we've heard this, we've talked about this over 2025. Your deal is really important. Why you're doing this is hugely important. What you're doing to solve it is also hugely important because that's the that's the mirror effect. So you want to get in the investment arena. Who do you go talk to? You want to talk to somebody that's got some success because they know what to do. So you want to propose some sort of success. Well, success can be knowledge also. So this is really a key point. We're going to deal with this separately on another issue, but the key to this concept is that it is your goal and the reason why you're doing this that relates to the situation your potential new person has. So when I communicated to people back in the day when I started about what I was doing, I had my plan all dialed out. My first year, I'm going to be making, I should be making about 120,000 this year, and that was my story. Now, how did I know I was going to make 120,000? Well, I drew it out. I planned it. That was my plan. That's what I'm planning to do. I'm planning to make 120,000 this year. And I'm on my way to that right now based on my growth. So 400 my first month, 40,000 my second month, 6 my third, 8,000 my fourth. I ended up making 119,000 in my first year, but it was all based on following a plan and understanding how the business worked. There was nothing else to it. It wasn't, it didn't fall, I didn't fall off the turnip truck and make 120 grand. I worked my tail off to get it done. But I worked in the right areas, which I will show you how to do. So the key was it was my story was what I was trying. See, I had a franchise for Southern California with this colloidal cleaning product. It was water, it was a water-based product that ate oil. We had a landmine. We were selling to governments, schools, gas stations. I mean, it was a huge, huge success. And then the manufacturer was in Arizona. They went broke. So all of my dealers around Southern California couldn't service our accounts. We had hundreds of accounts. And so I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. I got a blended family, three kids, living in suburbia in Southern California, and my cost of living is 8 grand a month. And I needed a solution. I took a look at this, and there's my story. So, what do you think? And I just want you to understand this and why you're here. What do you think the person on the other side of that conversation with me is thinking about if if they have an issue and they need to make some money? Are they going to pay attention? Are they going to listen to everything I've got to say? Are they going to ask the right questions? Are they going to follow? You see, this is the whole part of this thing. It was engaging people into getting into those conversations to open up and, you know, my last platinum distributor, Ralph and Jerry. Ralph's a multimillionaire building $1 million home in our neighborhood. Owned Apartment Box, was really big in the hair salon business. His wife worked in corporate America for a toy company. She had a commute of about an hour both ways in the day. He's building their dream home all by himself, and she goes to work every day. What do you think the problem was? The problem was to replace her income. So again, once I found out what the problem was, based on my story, I said, well, this is simple. Let me show you a solution. And I showed them the solution. They did it in 7 months. And because now here's why. This is so important. Necessity level is key here. So if you're really have a problem that you want to fix and you find a way to fix it, my goodness gracious, you're going to go do what you need to do. And once you learn what to do, then it's just a mechanical process because that's all our business is, a mechanical process. Is it talking to somebody you interested? No. Okay, next. Are you interested? No. Next. Are you interested? Well, maybe. Okay, let's talk. Blah, 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 blah. You're not interested? Okay, next. I mean, it really, and I'm being crass in that regard because it is almost that cut and dry because if you talk to enough people, somebody's going to say yes. Because when people have problems, they're looking for solutions. And especially today, there's a tremendous need for people to have solutions about life, about living, about money, about finance, about lifestyle, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, we'll cover those in separate classes. So the key to this concept is that this is your goal, and the reason why you are doing this relates to the situation your potential new person has. That's why your deal has to be spot on. What you're doing has to be completely deal. I'm doing this because I'm setting up my retirement. I want to pay off all my debts. I went broke. I couldn't survive. I didn't have enough set up for retirement. You've got to be real. You can't pretend. You got to be real. Because the more real you are, you're going to match somebody who's in the same boat that you are, and that's what you want. You want somebody in the same boat because you want somebody that's hungry because necessity is the key here. It's the mother of invention. Now, if you tell others this with passion, enthusiasm, and intention, they see that you are serious. Guess what happens? If they see that what they need or want could be had by doing Nikan, bingo, game over. Now, once that happens, then you got to do the next thing is you got to help them get there. And that's easy. I'll show we'll do that in a separate thing. But this is to get in some basics. They become very interested to learn more, and this is the whole idea that of you knowing what you want and having a firm grasp on how it will get done. All right, so in 1998, I'm going through a divorce. Business is making $1 million a year. Court freezes the assets. Can't do anything. I built it. It was, that was the case. Couldn't do anything. So I then said to myself, well, I need to find something else that's not connected here because I need to make some money. And I found this opportunity in the stock market, and I spent $3,500 to do this opportunity because I liked what it said it could do for me, and it gave me a potential solution to the problem I had. Bingo. Now, by following what they said to do in the next 3 years, I made $1.2 million by following their advice. Now, was I lucky? Okay, well, maybe I was. Who cares? I don't care if I was lucky or if I made the money. And I funded my pension and did a house remodel and bought a property in Florida and did a whole bunch of things. So the key, the key to this is when somebody has an issue and they want to solve that issue, they're going to go for it. Now, they become very interested to learn more once you got into this stage, and that's the whole idea of you knowing what you want and having a firm grasp on how you're going to get it done. That's it. See, if it, and here's why. So you're going to go out and talk to people, and this is the whole idea that it's a filtering system. You're prospecting, you're mining for diamonds, you're mining for people to get involved, and you've got to have a story. We're going to lay this out for you as well. This is all part of this deal. And the biggest bugaboo I observed in the last 35 years, and probably with me 13 years prior to that in other networking companies, is not knowing what to say. Just not having it at the tip of my tongue, not having the story, not practicing it, and that's what what I learned, and that's what changed everything, and we'll get into that. Now, by survey, we have found that most people don't know how this business actually works. So that's a proven fact, and it's sad to say that they just don't spend the time because they've been giving false data. And they operate on the false data. And obviously, when you operate on false data, you don't get the results, and then the majority of people quit. And they quit prematurely because they don't get the right answers that they wanted to get, or they don't get the results that they want to get. But they don't have the understanding of why they didn't get it. They just get frustrated and emotionally involved, and you can't be emotional. You got to, keep a stone face about business to a sense, to a degree, and you got to manage by statistics, and we'll talk about that. And they never had good advice, specific education, or the right mentor to guide them properly. Now, I've told everybody on this call, get a mentor. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, or may cost you a couple of bucks, whatever the case may be, or you do a favor, or you give a gift, whatever. The price that you would pay for a mentor is small in comparison to the gains that you can have because It's like a guide dog. It just, man, I can't tell you how many millions of dollars I made because I had a mentor. Because I could call that person up and say, I'm really frustrated. What do I do here? And then they would calm me down and set me in the right direction, whereas sometimes the sponsor doesn't know how to do that. So, well, good advice. You can do what you want with that. And there are many areas that get confused about they don't understand. It is known that when you don't understand, the more likely you won't do or you'll do it wrong. When you don't understand, okay, you're more than likely not going to do it, or if you try and do it, you're going to do it wrong because you don't know what to do. Most compensation plans are wordy and all based on numbers, and if you have trouble in this area, it can prevent understanding and success. So get used to it. It's not that difficult. You just have to study and practice, and I'll teach you that too. So the next step is to learn how the business works and what you must do so to lead the way. You can do two things. We sign up new distributors and we find customers. In the process of signing up new distributors, they in turn sign up new distributors and find new customers. And this process repeats itself when the focus and direction to do so exists. Key point here. If you focus your attention on it, it will happen. So let's say I'm working with Paula and she's my front line, and I say, okay, Paula, we need to put on an event to launch your business, and I need you to get on the phone and invite as many people to this event as you possibly can. I'll do the meeting and you get the people there. Okay. So what am I trying to accomplish? I want her to invite her people because she knows them. We're going to together create this team. She's going to find new distributors, and in return, those new distributors are going to come in and do the same thing. I've done this a gazillion times. This is how it works. I mean, it's just how it works. I mean, it's that simple. So, and you've all heard the penny double theory on this and in its concept. So you can get that. And it's how our business structure works if you know what to do. So I grew from myself to thousands of leaders, silvers and above in my organization. Thousands. Simply by repeating rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And the basis of vested interest was that it's the need to qualify that drives this business, which we'll talk about in another way. Now, the whole idea behind Business 101 is to gain an understanding of workability. Each week, what we're going to do is discuss a topic of concern and that you have. And if you have anything specific, you can write it in the Business 101 on WhatsApp. You can send me a note. You should all have my email. It's rolfman@earthlink.net. And if you have a topic that you want to have discussed, let me know. We'll get it discussed and we'll figure out a good solution. And otherwise, if you don't, I'll have the next one ready anyway, because I know where we're going here. Now, as we discussed on the Monday call and moving forward, the key for you is doing. So each week will end with a homework assignment, which is going to give you something to do. And we're going to do that right now. So here's your assignment for tonight. And then you can either email me your answer. We'll bring it up next week. We'll discuss it. You can call me and we'll discuss it. We'll go from there. And it's what is your goal with Nikon? Now, this should be an economic value. And I'll explain it this way. So the reason that anybody does anything is there's something behind that goal. It's the purpose. It's the reason, it's the sub goal. So the reason why I joined Nikon in 1990 was I needed to make $8,000 a month. And the reason I needed to make $8,000 a month, I had a rent payment, car payment, three kids, school, wife, all those kind of things. That was what I did. It wasn't for health. It wasn't for anything else. I needed to make $8,000 a month. Clear, plain and simple. So what I want you to do is really take a look at, what it is that you want to do. Then I want you to write out what you're going to do to get it. So I want to see where your understanding is, and I want to be able to show you what we can tweak to make it more realistic. Because again, um, it's just one of those things that if you have a detailed plan and you understand that if A plus B equals C, and you have to find A or B, then what do you have to do? Find A or B if that's what you want to see. So what we're going to do is figure out how these things get done and easily, not hard. None of this is going to be hard. None of this is going to be overwhelming. None of this is going to take you beyond your ability. You're all capable, you're all able, and you can all get this done. Is the homework assignment understood?